Hello, and welcome to Pandora Astrology's monthly horoscope for September of 2023. We are the astrologers of Pandora Astrology. I'm Jamie Kale Miller. I'm in Berkeley, California.
And I'm Julia Mijas, and I'm in San Francisco, California.
Let's take a look at what's happening this month. And by the way, Scorpio, your birthday is coming soon. If you haven't scheduled your yearly birthday reading yet, there's still time to do it before your birthday, which is the most powerful time to do it. This lets you ritualize your personal New Year's moment and jump into your year empowered to make it the best one ever. It also comes with fantastic affirmations you can use all year to create your best life. You'll find a link for it in the description below. Well, let's start with Juno. She's spending the whole month in your 10th house, and she is all about collaboration and partnership. And here she is in your domain of career and authority. Now, Juno is really a networker. She is so good at connecting with people and hooking people up that should be connected to each other to support, to form a strong net or fabric to undergird your career. So as Juno travels through this house is a really good time for doing networking on the job and strengthening your ties, your warm connections to anybody in your place of business, whether they are closer to the top or closer to the bottom, because Juno really excels at warm connections that transcend hierarchy. And that can really, there's nothing like knowing somebody in the mailroom when you need to. So let's see. I want to talk about Ceres next. Ceres starts the month in your 12th house. And this is a house where things tend to fall apart. Things tend to disintegrate. It is a house of spirit and otherworldly matters, which means it's not such a congenial spot for Ceres because she is all about the physical and the practical and the tangible. So Ceres themes, of course, are the things that connect us to the physical world: food, body, money. And Ceres is always interested in you having good health practices. But when she's passing through the 12th house, those kinds of things can break down. And you can find that, your practices are just kind of falling apart. You haven't taken your vitamins for days. You're forgetting to shower. You're not getting good sleep. Maybe you need to scrub your feet or something like that. So this can be a time when those sorts of things begin to pile up on you. And then when Ceres moves on into your sign, which she's going to do near the middle of the month, that can be the time when it all comes home to you and you're suddenly aware, like, hey, I've got to be doing these things. I've got to get more grounded and more practical. And I need to be, I need to have a life of the body that's sustainable. And so when Ceres enters into your first house is a really great time to design new practices and put them into action. Do something about it. That's what this is. It's a house of action. And so when Ceres enters your first house, you might find, for example, that you want to create a new meal plan, that you got on the scale this morning and wow, it's just not looking the way you want it to. You need a new meal plan, a new approach to eating, and that you're ready to take action on that and begin to do something concrete and maybe cook some healthier meals for yourself. So that would be a really great way to spend Ceres passage through your first house. Then the last thing I want to tell you about before tossing the ball over to Julia is Jupiter, your friend and mine. Jupiter is a pretty fun guy to have around. And this year, Jupiter has entered into your 7th house. Now, Jupiter is a luck bringer, and how he does that is that he brings the spirit of adventure, a sense of fun, and a feeling of confidence to any area that he moves through. And this year, he's spending in your 7th house of relationships. So this is such a great time for a renaissance in a relationship that you already have going, or looking for someone new if you're ready to open yourself up to a relationship and you've been single for a while. This transit of Jupiter through your seventh house can really give you the confidence to be aware when other people are interested in you and to respond to them and pursue those lines of interest until you find yourself in a partnership that can be really great, like a lucky charm. And so, but why am I mentioning this now? Jupiter is going to be in the seventh house probably for a total of a year. And that really depends a lot on your own personal house structure as to when Jupiter entered this house and when it leaves. But I do want to say that early in the month, Jupiter is going to go retrograde. So Jupiter is going to begin the retrograde part of his yearly journey on September 4th. And so if you have been interested in a relationship but haven't been bothering to look for one, this could be when you start the search in earnest, when you really start to get out there and be more social and find your way into environments where you could meet somebody who might be interesting to you and interested in you. And if you are in a relationship already and you're ready for a renaissance, this could be the time in which you realize that you've got to have more adventure, more fun, maybe more travel with your partner. And then you maybe make some plans for those kinds of trips. And that can really create such a good feeling between you and your partner and bring about that renaissance that I was talking about. Hey, Julia, what's up with Venus, Mercury, and Mars for the Scorpios this
I
month?
have some pretty good news there, Scorpio, and that is we have some planets which have been retrograde that are finally going direct this month. So that makes life a bit easier. We'll start with Venus, the planet of relationships, who starts the month retrograde, but very early on the 3rd, she goes direct. Now, we've been going through this for weeks now, throughout the summer. And Venus retrogrades are time of relationship review. It's kind of like they can make relationships a little bit crunchier, especially if you're sort of going over to yourself, what are the weak parts? What are the parts you want to work on? And this is all happening in your 10th house. So while Venus has been retrograde, you've been reviewing how your relationship helps you with your career, or maybe you've been reviewing whether to make your relationship more public in some way, such as getting married, which is the ultimate social statement for your relationship. If you've been single, maybe you've been thinking about these things. Maybe you've been dating and kind of reviewing each one of your dates, not quite sure which way to go forward or backwards, or thinking if you like someone and then maybe changing your mind. But by the 3rd, Venus is going to go direct. This area is going to get a lot smoother in your life. And while Venus is direct in your 10th for the rest of the month, it's going to be a great time to focus on your career. You could be getting along well with your workmates, with your boss, anybody who is in a position of authority over you. So make the most of that for the rest of the month. Summer's over, time to focus on work. Mercury, the planet that rules your mind, is also going to go direct this month on the 15th. So it starts the month retrograde in your 11th house. Now, this is a house of friends. It's a house of social groups. It's a super social house with a super social planet in it. So this is a time of connecting a lot to your social circles, maybe by phone calls, texts, DMs, internet, social media connection, which can also be the 11th house. Now, since Mercury is retrograde at the start of the month, this can mean a lot of misunderstandings, a lot of miscommunications with your friendship circles, or even reviewing some of your life goals, which are also ruled by the 11th house, or maybe reviewing whether you want those same goals or whether you should pivot in some way. Now, amidst all this confusion, the date of September 6th is going to be very helpful because that's when Mercury conjoins the Sun while retrograde. So remember, it's early in the month, it's still retrograde. And this can be a time of insights and revelations. So you may get a little bit of clarity into all these misunderstandings happening with people in your life, as well as, how you have been reviewing your goals. Should you pivot? Should you just change up your strategy and pursue the same ones? So really, keep that day marked in your calendar. It could actually be very helpful to you. And like I said, on the 15th, Mercury is going to go direct. So all of these kind of communication snafus you've been having with all the groups in your life are going to slowly start fading away. And you can just enjoy those connections and enjoy all of the sort of intelligent conversation and almost, intelligent conversation and your ability to even help bolster your ideas through your friends and through the groups in your life. And then finally, I'll talk about Mars. Mars is in your 12th house all month. This is a very, very, very isolated, very diffuse, very ethereal place. And Mars, can feel a bit like a foreigner here because that kind of goes against Mars's nature. I mean, Mars is very upfront, assertive, direct, and this is the least upfront, assertive, and direct house in the whole zodiac. So if Mars is your activity and your energy, and the 12th house is this place of fantasy and ethereal things, this could be a time to be putting some drive, some energy, either into your fantasy life, which might include, if you can get very, very active about something creative in your life, that could be very fun. Or if you do something active that could serve something higher than yourself, Mars likes his ego. But the 12th house is the least ego place in the zodiac. So, being able to do something very active that could serve others could be something like an AIDS walk or some kind of triathlon for a greater cause, using your body not just to build muscles, but to actually do something for other people, or anything active like that would be very, very helpful. Mars in the 12th house can sometimes get irritated out of nowhere. The 12th house, like I said, it's very diffuse. So if you find yourself getting all pissy about something this month, it might be really hard to put your finger on it. Or you might just be like, why is that? I thought I was fine with that. And all of a sudden I'm not, so it can be a little bit strange with how we deal with our anger in the 12th. If we're also upset with someone, we can be a little indirect about it. Maybe we want to act behind their backs or gossip a little bit behind our backs and not show them our anger. But this is also known as the house of self-undoing. So if you do actions behind somebody's back, if you are gossiping viciously about somebody behind their backs, they could end up finding out. The 12th house has this way of, of kind of like sabotaging us too. So just try to be a bit above board with your actions, and you should be totally fine during this time.
Yeah, wow. Hi, Jamie here. Horoscopes and moon videos are fascinating, but they're also not personalized for you. That's why we run live workshops monthly where you can get answers about your own chart. This month's topic is optimizing Mercury retrograde for writers, managers, and learners. Mercury retrogrades are notorious for making a mess of your office, your paperwork, your projects, and your brain. But it doesn't have to be that way. In this workshop, I'll explain how to handle this difficult transit just in time for back to school. This workshop is expressly for our Demigod Patreon subscribers who pay only $15 a month for access to live events like this one. It's easy to sign up at the Patreon link in the description below. I'd love to see you there. Now let's get back to the video. So I want to speak to the moons that are coming. The first one is happening on the 14th. And since we are talking about those 12th house themes, I think this is actually a pretty good follow on to what you were just saying, Julia. This moon, we're calling it Seeds of Selfless Service, and it balances this Virgo new moon with all of the energy of birth and the desire to like organize and get it together and be really collected and be useful and all of that kind of inspiration against Neptune in Pisces, which says service is great, but it should be spiritual service, not just physical service. And so there's a balancing act going on here. Seeds of selfless service is what we're calling this moon. And this moon and sun combination lands in your 11th house of community. So this is a really great moon for getting out into your community and doing nice things for community, for groups, for demographics that you believe in and that you support, people of like mind, working together and doing stuff that's useful and that also helps everybody to feel really connected in a spiritual way too. So, and new moons being times for planting seeds and beginning stuff, this is a really good moon for starting those kinds of projects. And then we have the second moon coming up this month, which is a full moon in Aries happening on the 29th. And that full moon lands in your 6th house right here opposite the sun in Libra with Pallas Athena, and there's a square to Vesta. This one is pretty complex and also has quite a bit of challenge and stress in it. We're calling this the sacred fire of self-care because it's very much about the pull to do what one wants selfishly. That's the moon in Aries, and the pull to be socially appropriate and fair, and that's the sun in Pallas Athena, all mediated by Vesta, the temple priestess, who is very focused on this idea of self-care and finding the balance between self and other, and doing so in a very nurturing way. So the moon itself lands in your 6th house, and it wouldn't be surprising if you see this dynamic playing out in your work life versus solitude. Your work life being the 6th house, and you may find that you or somebody in your workplace is exemplifying this hasty, impulsive, and somewhat self-absorbed moon in Aries, whereas you might also feel the pull of these Libra planets in your 12th house, pulling you inward towards solitude and retreat and rest and getting away from the rest of the world. And that might be where self-care really sits during this moon. And it's going to be about the balance that works for you. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is the seasonal change. At the beginning of the month, we can see that there is activity going on in your 10th house and your 11th house. And so in the beginning of the month, there's a lot of emphasis on the career arena and also the social arena. And then as the month goes on, planets gradually migrate over into your 12th house. And this is really just a signal that that special time of year has arrived that I like to call your annual mop-up period, which is to say the last month before your birthday. And this begins as the sun moves into your 12th house if you're a Scorpio rising, or it begins 30 days before your birthday if you're a sun sign Scorpio, or whatever sign you are. That's your annual mop-up period, and it's the time to clear the decks of the previous year's projects, maybe continue fishing them because you think you're going to be able to fish them out of the water, or cut bait because it's clear that they are not going to be finished. But either way, this last month is a really good time for going inward, for becoming more contemplative, for spending more time in solitude and just swimming in the swirling currents of your interior life, and also resting more deeply, getting better sleep, and putting some high quality attention on your inner worlds. And if you're an artist, this can be a really wonderful time for cultivating the forms of creativity that take you into your imagination and produce artistic works. And this can be a really great 30-day period for that, right up until the sun leaves this house, moves into the 1st house, and or your birthday happens, whichever applies to you.
Well, that's all we have for you today. If you love Pandora Astrology's free and informative horoscopes, then please do hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and share these videos with your friends.
You can find out so much more about how this month's transits affect you in very personal timing in our monthly Patreon workshops. Find the link in the description below to get started. Enjoy the equinox, and until next time, we'll see you around the cosmos.
Bye-bye.